Everyone, this is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I am your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co-host, Darby Robinson. We are live on youtube.com/at Raise Your Voice and also available still wherever you get your podcasts. But if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, drop a like on this video, subscribe to that channel, and turn on those notifications so you can join us whenever we go live. If you love what we do and you really want to say thank you, head on over to patreon.com/raise your voice, where you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. Darby, I think we should thank Eric Neander, and I've got my Eric Neander quarter zip on because it's trade season, it's trade deadline season. I think we should thank them for making the deal they made today before we recorded.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
We've had a lot of bad luck where we'll discuss something and it'll be pertinent and again, pays to watch live. If you're not on YouTube, it pays to watch live. And then sometimes before I can even get the episode up, some news is broke that has changed the situation. And I was really afraid that we had this on the schedule to record tonight. They were going to get through the whole episode, and then like tomorrow morning, the Rays were going to make two big trades, and we're going to have to hop back on and relitigate and do an emergency pod. But we have news to discuss tonight, and that is the trade of catcher Danny Jansen to the Milwaukee Brewers. What are your thoughts?
It's a great appetizer to the start of trade deadline season. It's a good little amuse-bouche to start us off. It's like it's a smaller move. It's also the type of move that immediately starts making you go, it's the classic Rays move. They're selling? Are they buying? Are they selling? No, they're selling. Clearly, that's a sell because that's your starting catcher. But wait, this next move might. So I like it. Danny Jansen, we were both very high on him. Well, I was very high on him coming into the season. I think we both discussed him as one of the top targets. And I was really excited about having a catcher that was bat first and was really good. And I think for me, when I'm overall thinking back on like Danny Jansen's tenure with the Rays, I think it was a disappointing, I think, free agency. But this trade, I think, really kind of it wins that free agency choice. I think it was the right choice to make. I think they went out and got one of the better catchers on the free agent market. So I like that they got rewarded with that decision, even if on the field it was kind of a mixed bag for Jansen. He came along as the season went on with the bat. The defense and framing especially was pretty bad. It was much worse. Or it was as bad as advertised, but I think the impacts were much worse than I really thought. I thought like, okay, his bat could carry, it can make up for that. His bat never really got into that real groove that he could. He's currently at a 99 WRC plus. That's just not good enough. He needed to be 110, 115, 120 to really make up for that glove. So personally, when I'm looking at this, I think you made the right choice getting him. I think it didn't quite work out on the field. I think this is a really good cash in of those chips for a guy that he had a mutual option, which almost never vests. I think the last time a mutual option actually vested was Aramis Ramirez with the Cubs. Flashback to those days. So you're almost certainly not going to be paying him next year. You probably wouldn't have wanted to pay him for $12 million anyway. I think this is a pretty good cash in of that small chip.
Yeah, I think I was less. The framing was bad, and the metrics kind of bear that out. I think I was less harsh on the defense, and I was more content with where the bat got. If you've got a catcher that can play every day and be around a league average hitter, I was mainly okay with that. I was okay with the idea of them keeping him throughout the season. One, as okay, they brought in this guy as a free agent, and it was a short-term deal, so I don't think there were any misgivings as to what this deal was. But showing that, hey, we signed you, we're going to keep you around. We're not, again, the plan isn't quite clear whether the Rays will buy or sell, and I don't know if it will be clear.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be probably in that gray area again. But this move in particular, this trade, I think, in terms of the success that the Rays will have this year and beyond, is so inconsequential
Mm.
that it only makes sense to you know get something in return for Jansen. They had to eat a little bit of the money, but they get an infielder
Yeah.
back from Milwaukee, Yadier Arynamo. We're going to try to get that name right at some point. Who is a guy? He's age 21 season. He's in High A. Has been there this whole year and has hit really well. 297 average, 355 on base with 11 home runs. So, a little bit of pop in there. Does not strike out a whole bunch. Walks. The walk rate has grown throughout his minor league career, and he's got a 122 WRC plus in High A. He ranked actually showed up in a bunch of different places in Brewers prospect rankings, as high as I think 10th.
10th with Baseball
list.
America, yeah. J.J. Cooper had him 10th in the Brewers system.
Like this is it's not like a great prospect, but it's a guy that can maybe bounce around the infield. His glove, like he's probably like a second baseman, maybe a third. He's not a shortstop level defender. But with some of the hitting, 60 future value hit tool. That's a guy that you want in your system. Kind of reminds me of like the return you got for Aaron Savale a year ago when you got Gregory Barrios, also from Milwaukee. So kind of a very similar trade. Veteran player getting moved for just some organizational depth, a prospect. The
a top 30.
There, I think there's
like a top 30 organizational guy, not a lotto ticket necessarily, but not like a top prospect.
Yeah, and then the next part of this is, when the news broke, we're kind of wondering, okay, what is the Rays catching situation right now?
Yeah.
You've got Matt Thaiss, who they got in a trade with the White Sox earlier this season, and then no one else on the 40-man roster.
Driscoll's hurt, right? He's still hurt, so he is not available. You had a couple guys off the 40-man that you could add, like Dominic Keegan, who's a top prospect. Yeah. Kenny Piper, who's had there's been some talk about him, but yeah, it was a okay. Well, you're playing in an hour, and Jansen was in the starting lineup. You have Matt Thaiss, but like, if Matt Thaiss gets hurt, who's getting the catcher's glove? And
which
probably Caballero, right?
Yeah. Before we get into the subsequent trade that answers the roster question, I want to discuss like Danny Jansen stayed in the dugout.
Yes.
For seemingly this whole game. Ryan Bass reported on it early in the game, which I have never heard of that.
Not for an announced trade,
right? The teams hadn't announced it yet. It's still
not an official announcement, but like
it has been obviously widely broken that this trade has gone through. There's a return. There's details. Like this trade is happening.
A fan I saw online, I think on like Insta, somebody was like showing Shane Baz in the outfield. Yeah. The passing tweet. So somebody broke the news to Shane Baz in warm-ups that Danny Jansen is no longer. No, we've had moments like that where like one of the most famous I remember is Wilmer Flores with the Mets,
right?
Openly like weeping on the field because of trade, which didn't actually happen. That was not a trade. That was a rumored trade that did not happen.
And it gets a little weirder with in-game stuff, but for it to happen, an hour before the game, like there's plenty of time. Like
pulling him from the lineup, like he was in the starting lineup. Now he's not, but yeah. So he was technically the emergency catcher, still officially a part of the team. He was in uniform. It wasn't a Randy situation where he was in the stands with his wife and kids. Jansen was suited up, and technically he could have come in there, pinch hit. Could have had a pinch hit homer, run off.
Yeah, would have been interesting.
But yeah, that would be wild.
They showed him talking to Kevin Cash. I don't know. It was just a weird situation. But we were wondering in that time, what are the Rays going to do catcher wise? And Mark Topkin comes out and tweets that looks like they're going to be making another move to bring in a catcher. So the gears start turning. People start thinking, is it Sean Murphy? Is the big deal finally happening? No. I don't think Sean Murphy was ever happening.
The two big names that were mentioned were Sean Murphy or Alex Jackson reunion, and this is a happy medium between those two.
When I was thinking about it, an Alex Jackson reunion, like, it kind of just made a lot of sense.
That would have been the biggest bummer announcement, even though I'm kind of almost like an Alex Jackson defender.
Especially if it's a short-term fix. Like, all right, let's just get Alex Jackson here.
He knows the pitchers,
Right. It would maybe call Taj back up. Get him out Alex Jackson.
Yeah. No, there you go. I could fix him. Yeah.
So I was thinking about it. Like, maybe Alex Jackson. But no, it's Nick Fortes with the Miami Marlins. He's in his first year of arbitration, but has multiple years of control. Is a glove first, really no bat catcher, which I'm fine with. Again, this is a team that's now one game over 500. We've got a couple interesting names in Durham where if you ever want to give one of them some run, I think you're in a spot to do that really whenever they're ready, whenever you're ready to do it, like pull the trigger. And you've got two guys that are number two catchers in a year. Like you wouldn't go into a year with this as your catching pair. And clearly, that's why the Rays went out and signed Jansen. It didn't quite work out. But to just pivot to these guys and say, you guys kind of battle it out. Maybe we keep one. Maybe there's some growth there between one or both, and both stick around. But overall, you know what? You get a guy that's got more control, that's better defensively, and like you said, it's not like Jansen was lighting the world on fire. You're not losing a thumper in the back half of your lineup. You're not losing a hitting catcher the likes of Mike Zunino when he was at his peak. So I see this as a good move, but ultimately an inconsequential one when you look at the big picture.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is actually initially you look at it and I think I honestly see this as like it's a sell move to sell Jansen, but I don't 100% like lock in that Jansen is going to be the better catcher the next 2 months. Oh, and especially I think this tonight was actually kind of a funny night because you have Matt Thaiss catching, and it was almost like a quintessential night to like as the night went on, I liked the trade for Fortes more and more because watching it, I was seeing these borderline pitches in what it's kind of been known as like the shadow zone. Right, this has been talked about a lot. If you watch like Sunday Night Baseball, the StatCast version, they kind of have the overlay that's like, the could go either way pitch like parts of the zone. The Rays have not gotten those at all this entire season. Jansen is one of the worst framers. He was at like really low frame rate. Thaiss as well. Like Thaiss is actually not a terrible catcher behind the plate, but he's been a negative framer. Last year was -4. This year he's -2. They're just those shadow zone pitches, those pitches that are just slightly off the plate. It's kind of a big deal because like the Rays are so aggressive at trying to get ahead early and live in the zone. This year you had Danny Jansen being the main starter. He was at -8 framing value. Nick Fortes this year is +3. So that's a positive +11 swing for the Rays. And we've sort of talked about this. Like the entire Rays pitching staff has kind of seemingly regressed, right? And a lot of that is not on just the catcher, but like there's a little bit here and there that does add up. And there are these games where even during this losing streak and this slump where you have like games that are like 1 or 2 runs and a ball that, and like this was a game where I saw so many pitches there. It was like, it was 1-1 and there's a ball right on the side. Like that should be called a strike. Thaiss catches it very awkwardly. You can tell he's a guy who was a first baseman like,
Yeah.
3 years ago, uh, catches it very awkwardly and it doesn't get called. If you have Fortes, who is extremely good framer for his whole career, he's been positive every single year. Maybe that goes to 1-2, and that completely changes the at bat. Now that pitcher doesn't have to come back into the zone. You can now throw a sinker, like Rasmussen can throw a sinker out of the zone and get a punch out. Whereas now you have to live a little bit more in the zone. Otherwise, you're risking going down to 3 balls. I do feel like that is something that like I thought I wanted the bat first catcher, and it turns out I'll take the black hole. I really want those frames. I want to see these Rays pitchers get those pitches slightly off, steal those strikes, get us into better counts, and see if that can really get the pitchers to like perform better.
Here's the thing: is you can have the black hole catcher if you've got other good hitters in your lineup that are carrying the offense. And the Rays have had that this year. Like their offense has been fine for most of the year. It's gone through a rough patch recently, but the whole team has.
And they've gotten people on. Like that's the other thing
Yeah.
too, is like even like tonight it was like a 4-run game, but they had 12 men left on base. They had like 11, there were 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. Like so there was like that. You are generating offense. You're just not generating as many runs right now. So even in the slumping part, they are getting some stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, I think we're going to talk about the rest of the trade deadline in a little bit. And who knows? Might even get some breaking news. Maybe a trade breaks while we're on the air tonight. But before we get to that, the other big piece of Rays news from the last week, Taj Bradley optioned to AAA after another rough start. And Bradley, a guy whose name had been thrown around in a lot of stories about the trade deadline as a potential pitcher that the Rays could move. That's still possible, but I think ultimately the story has changed on Taj Bradley now. A starter who's still very young, but is at, I think, a really big moment in his career, how the rest of this season plays out for him. Did you agree with the decision to send Taj down?
Yes, 100%. He was getting worse out there. Um, he had a couple starts that weren't bad that actually ended up pretty well, but even in those, like he's just not. The command has been a disaster, unmitigated disaster the entire season. He's lost the feel for his changeup, so that wasn't even there. So he's just really been a 2-pitch guy. He doesn't have a slider. He's not getting whiffs. It was a struggle out there, and he has good enough stuff that he could absolutely bounce back. But that command, it is in such a bad state right now. This is like he's actually at his worst at any point during his career this year. Like this has been the worst he's looked, and that's not great with that development. So I think he needs time to like kind of open the hood, tinker away, not worry about making competitive pitches and facing big league bats. And like I think you need to do a big change. I think he needs to kind of reinvent himself a little bit. The pitch mix, the pitch shape, the feel of the pitches, and the command. Enos Harris was talking about this on Rates and Barrels. He's in a very, very dangerous category of people with a location plus as low as his is. Like he just does not have the command to overcome if he doesn't have his pitches. And so losing the sinker, the kind of changeup, that was pretty much a death knell for him in the majors right now. But this is the opportunity. I think sending him down is needed because I mean we've seen Joe Boyle. His stuff is good enough that like he needs to be starting. It's a high. It's
see him start to like figure out if that's going to work as a project.
Yeah, I mean I think that's
for a prolonged stretch.
He has been dominant in Durham, so they had to call him up, and he's been working out of the pen and looked great there. But you need him you need to see what you have in that, and he legitimately might be your best starting pitcher with stuff wise if if he commands it. Like the stuff is that good. It's that level, right? Like with Shane McClanahan
Yeah.
not injured, like he is right up there with Rasmussen stuff wise. The thing is consistency and command, as we've seen, is a lot harder than anything else. But right now, it was really hard to have Shane Boz and Taj Bradley both as your 4 or 5 because that really you just did not know what you could get out of them. And Boz has been just a little bit better. He's had a bit better command. The whiffs have not always been there, but he's been ahead of Taj. And I think just for the good of Taj Bradley's career, this could be the best thing that could happen to him, which is he gets that opportunity to really reinvent himself, come back strong.
Yeah, it's important to remember Taj is still incredibly young. He's 24 years old. His
Mm-hmm.
pro career started when he was 17. Was when he was pitching in rookie ball for the Rays back in 2018. He was drafted very young out of high school. And when you're a pitcher like Bradley with an electric fastball and some other electric stuff, I think it's really easy to kind of coast through the minors just living on your stuff. When he is 20 and pitching against guys in A ball, they're just not going to touch his fastball. That's just the reality. And so I think he gets up to the majors when he's 22 years old, and again still kind of flashes that stuff. And before there's a book on him, it's really easy for him to find success. And it wasn't always like he's had rough stretches in each of his 3 big league seasons. He's also had some
Mm-hmm.
dominant starts, and then the really dominant stretch we saw in 2024. But development, we say this all the time, development is not linear. He is incredibly young. Like you said, this is a really big opportunity for him, and it could be the best thing that happened to him. And, I mean, some pitchers don't figure it out until they're in their 30s. I think that's starting to shift younger and younger in today's game. But even then, Taj is young. For a guy to be in his
Yeah.
third season at age 24, I don't know. That's impressive in its own. So there's some really worrying signs. I think what Kevin Cash came out and said is for him to work on it. He can't work on it in the big leagues. Like that's not, especially when you're still competing for a postseason spot.
Yeah.
You can't just keep giving the ball every fifth day, and hopefully he figures it out. It helps that you have Joe Boyle that you can turn to. The Rays might have been in the market for additional starting pitching. Chris Paddock,
Yeah.
John Haynes.
There was a report.
They were in for Chris Paddock, who ends up going to Detroit. I thought that was an interesting one, but when you think about it, I don't know. Maybe it makes some sense. There's a chance that another starter could get moved. I feel like Bradley is not going anywhere after this decision. I think the Rays would feel like they were selling low on him. They don't typically like to do that with guys that are the caliber of Taj Bradley. So
You even have with Taj the opportunity that maybe he reinvents himself in the pen, right? Like I think if you really are like struggling with him as a starter and the offers, like the Rays know like what they're being offered. Like if they were getting a trade offer that they think and they're like, well, Taj is he has this is probably the best we've ever seen him, and this offer is great. Like we can unload him. Then I think they would take that. But I agree. Like I think if they think he can be a really good starter, get those innings, and reinvent himself, great. There is also the chance that you can add a couple ticks of velo, get him to work on just having like really refining his pitch mix, and be that 2 inning reliever that the Rays so love. But that's something that's like down the line, and I think you have the time to be able to experiment with that, and you can make a Taj Bradley trade in the offseason. You can make that trade if you want, but I think he is he's in a strange spot during the regular season because I think the teams that buy at the regular season they want security. You want a guy that's like this is fixing this problem. You don't want a guy that's like we're gonna have to work on this. Unless there is a trade, like unless there's a like Pittsburgh Pirates type of trade out there where
right.
they're also not going, or the Miami Marlins, or where they're like, we are not competing necessarily. I mean, the Marlins are they're technically not also out of it either. They're on a heater.
Good baseball.
But like a team that's not necessarily saying like this is not a move for now, this is a move for later. But we can have him now and try it out. So there's the option there, but I don't see him as like that thing that you need to trade at the deadline where there's a bunch of teams competing for that. That I feel like is more like a Zach Littell, who again he's your rental, and so like that's much. I feel like he just has a much better piece to sell right now than Bradley. So I do think this kind of takes him out of the trade market, but we've been surprised before.
Yeah, I mean, what is does it change your stance on Littell and what they do with Littell, or does it reinforce your stance?
I think with Zach Littell,
were you trade or keep Littell? What not what you would do, what you thought they would do a week ago.
I was that they might trade like a Taj or a Boz or a Rasmussen for a bigger impact, like a starter for starter. And so you slide in like Seymour and Boyle, and then you trade Rasmussen for the all-star level controllable equivalent outfielder, right? But because like Littell doesn't get you that, but like you can keep Littell because he's a pretty solid 5-6 inning guy. Like
we have been trying to get rid of him. Like I'm not trying to get rid of him because I've always respected like the production that he's had, but he's been like your best starting pitcher for 2 years. Like in terms of not giving up runs. I mean, Rasmussen has obviously stepped up.
Rasmussen's
last year through this year, but like he's been.
I still would rather turn the ball over to Pepio or Rasmussen right now than Littell. But yeah, I mean,
right.
I would rather Littell than Taj Bradley or Shane Baz most starts. Yeah. Like I.
And with the setback to McClanahan, where that just kind of pushes his timeline back, it looks like they're really going to slow him down. And we're going to see, I think we'll see McClanahan, but we'll see very little of him this year.
I think it's going to be exactly what we saw with Rasmussen last year.
Yeah.
Come back, couple innings in the pen, just to get the cobwebs off, and then next year is your full season.
So, with Bradley going down, and if you want to give him time to work on it, now Boyle slots into the rotation. You have a couple other 40-man options. You've got, Ian Seymour, who's been used out of a bullpen role. I think they're going to leave him there. Maybe stretch him back out next year, depending on what your rotation looks like. And then you've also got Joe Rock, who could come up and, I guess, I would see them probably using that fifth spot as like a hybrid role where you bring back an opener and then maybe you use a Seymour or a Rock behind them. Or, if you were to trade from the current rotation, you could bring another starter back in. I don't know, maybe like a Chris Paddock, right? Back.
And maybe that's why they were interested in a Paddock, because like a Paddock trade with. So this all came about because I think was it Sherman or Rosenthal was sort of saying that one of the other teams that was in the hunt for Chris Paddock, who was traded to the Detroit Tigers, who also had the news after that was announced that Reese Olson would be missing the rest of the season, which is a big loss for the Tigers. Yeah. Was that the Rays were also one of the teams? I think the Rays and the Yankees were the other teams that were. Who was it?
I think it was Heyman.
So Heyman, okay, yeah. Oh yeah, because then it was also the Yankees were also involved. And you never know when it comes to like the Rays, like how involved were they, or how much were they also being like, how much is he going for? And just kind of checking in on prices. But it does make you go like, that doesn't make any sense until you go like, well, by the time Thursday rolls around, it'll probably make sense, because if Zach Littell is traded, then there's an open spot, and then Paddock's kind of slides in, and you use him as like a 3-inning guy instead of a 5-inning guy. Like it's again like all the pieces once they shake out, you can then see the picture. But while they're happening, you can be like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you add Chris Paddock? Are you just adding a reliever? But you could get so many better relievers. Right. I don't understand. They got a 4.5 ERA and 4.5 WHIP or FIP. It's like he's kind of like it does make me think though, because they got a pretty decent piece, Minnesota, for that. I think the 15th overall prospect for the Tigers. That sort of does set the bar for Zach Littell.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think
Littell should get more. I think
he should get more. I think a lot of teams, there's a dream of what Paddock could be, but
how
we
many
are
years
on
does
year
Paddock
5.
have left?
This he's a rental.
He's a rental.
Yeah. So same as Littell,
And he's
but like
on more money. Not much more, like 2 million.
not much more. But Paddock's been like 5 years of like just not being what people want him to be.
Right.
So there is a certain point where you're just like, yeah, the stuff might be better, but like it doesn't. If he pitches good, why doesn't he ever pitch good? Like he is kind of in a spot that's like you kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
All that's being said, Zach Littell should have some pretty good value.
Yeah, I agree. So it could make a deal intriguing. The Rays won tonight. It was, I think, a gritty victory. You got, Pete Fairbanks coming in for, 1 1/3. Edwin Uceda looked like the Edwin Uceda of 2024. Drew Rasmussen pitched really well after a rough first inning that included some terrible center field defense from Chandler Simpson. Then the game ends. The bookend of that is Johnny DeLuca making a great play in center, showing how valuable he is to have back, and kind of the issues with Simpson playing every day in the field and what that presents. With that being said, the team has completely cratered their postseason chances, according to the sites like Baseball Reference and Fangraphs. At one point, the Rays were as high as an 81.4% chance. That was a month ago. Mm-hmm. That was the highest their postseason chances got, which is over 4 out of every 5 times, 81.4. Tonight they jumped up a few percentage points, but this morning they were at 15.5% according to Fangraphs. Now they're up at 18.2% after the victory. All that to say that it's not looking good for the postseason this year. Zoom out a little bit, and the standings look a little more forgiving. The teams that you're competing against show you that this thing is not over. There is a path to get into the postseason, but it requires you to play better.
Yeah.
And, also maybe hold on to some guys that you would not normally hold on to at the trade deadline. So it's an interesting dilemma, I think, for the Rays. They're 2.5 games out right now. They are the first team out of that spot right now. So
what's an interesting setup this year for the American League is that there isn't like a dominant team. There's not one team that you're like, that's a truly great team. The Blue Jays are the number 1 team in the American League now, but they're on a heater that is probably unsustainable at this level. They need to do some buying before I think a lot of people would really take them seriously. The Detroit Tigers have had a almost equally bad post or going into the All-Star break and then post All-Star break slump. They had lost almost like 11 in a row or 12 out of 13. And they now just again lost Reese Olson. Houston Astros are division leading, but Yordan Alvarez may not come back this year. They lost Framber Valdez. Isaac Paredes had a pretty bad hammy pull that he's going to be missing sometime, the dreaded sometime. And then if you look around, you have like the Boston Red Sox have been up and down. They still need to add. You have the Texas Rangers are surging. You have the Yankees just lost Aaron Judge to a very scary arm injury that like could derail his season. Like he will. It's an unknown timetable, right? He will have to test it in a few weeks. He could come back. He will not be playing in the outfield. And they already said he's not playing first base.
It sounds like he probably like what Bryce Harper dealt with a couple years ago.
Yes.
And needed Tommy John.
Yes.
It sounds
Yeah,
very similar.
it's a UCL injury. So like the rarer times when I mean like UCL, that's in all of our arms, not just pitchers'
Yeah.
arms. We all got it. If I blow it out though, it's fine. I'm not going to write very well for a little bit, but nobody's worried about my surgery.
No, there's a lot of like big injury stuff that's going on. Like we saw Eugenio Suarez get hit in the hand with a fastball today. The X-rays came back negative, but I mean, talk about dominoes. Not only just injury stuff that's impacting the trade market, gambling investigations. Looking at what happened with
Yes.
the Cleveland Guardians and Emmanuel Clase,
They've
that
lost another
changes
pitcher.
the closers market. And Pete Fairbanks is a guy who I think probably right now is the most likely out of this group to be traded.
Well, see, so that was also the breaking news today. For people that didn't hear, Emmanuel Clase put on leave while he is being credibly investigated for involvement in gambling. It was the same verbiage that was it Luis Ortiz?
Yeah, Luis Ortiz.
Of the Guardians had.
It's part of the same investigation. I'm not making that up, right? I mean,
I think so. I think it's part of the same sort of thing, which is and now people are kind of coming up with this because the thing is, this was not like fixing games potentially, but like fixing these abnormal betting patterns with like first pitch strike.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So like which is equal parts like a high value bet because you can get a lot of money for it, but also an extremely easy thing I would imagine for law enforcement to pick up on because if there's a lot of action on that and then Clase spikes a pitch like he's never thrown up, like it feels like that's a weird level of cheating where you could be like,
it's very easy
very
for the sports books to pick up on it too. Those are bets that usually have limits, and those limits might be a couple $1,000, but when you're dealing with large sports books that take action from real high rollers that are coming in, and you might see someone come in and place $5,000 on a Monday night MLB game. Then that same gambler, those types of gamblers, are not coming in and betting $5,000 on a first pitch ball in the 8th inning of a Cleveland Guardians game.
No,
that is an immediate red flag for these sports books. For one example, it's in baseball. In college baseball, it was the head coach of the University of Alabama was fired for being involved in a potential gambling scheme where they played a midweek game. And someone went up at a casino and at a sports book and bet, an abnormal amount of money for that type of game. That sports book ran their camera footage, their CCTV footage, was able to zoom in on the guy's phone, and he was texting the head coach right before he went up to the window. And like these are things that, listen, this is big business for these sports books. They're not going to let anything that could throw off the integrity of the game, because that also they lose a lot of business that way if people don't think the games are legit, or
who is spending money to bet on baseball if you don't think if it's a rigged game.
And obviously it's important for Major League Baseball, who is in bed with and a lot of their teams who is in bed with these sports books. The Cleveland Guardians themselves posted their starting lineup today, and it was sponsored by Bet365, which I know there's contracts that they probably have to live up to, but maybe it's best you get on the phone with their people and you say,
be like, we'll pay you for the thing. We can't do it tonight. Like give us like a week. We'll pay it out. We'll just like let's not talk about it.
So, we've gotten a little off the track here,
but no. So Clase is off the table, right? He is not being traded. It does almost kind of in a weird way take a lot of the Guardians' moves as like kind of questionable right now. The MLB said nobody else is being investigated by them for gambling, but it's a little scary right now. But then the other news out was Felix Bautista has a shoulder injury, that pretty significant one, that unknown timetable for that. So back to Pete Fairbanks. Suddenly, the price just went up, everybody. Like this is the best closer on the market. You saw tonight in New York, 4-out save. You had Giancarlo Stanton up with the chance to tie it. Punchy, easy, just whiff at the top of the zone. See you later. Roll the Timothy Chalamet tweet. Like just absolutely, no chance. You're striking out always. Next inning, again, he gives up one hit to Ryan McMahon, but then still gets out of that inning. 4-out save in New York. That is now the best available. Shoulder feels good, and he's not playing the ponies. So Pete Fairbanks. His only gamble is on like a mystery Lego set.
Yeah.
Whether it's gonna be like the Star Wars one he's really hoping for, if it's gonna be just like a Jurassic World Lego set. That's it. Like he is definitely now like I. But this gets back to, I think this segues into our like kind of main segment tonight, which is basically like, what do the Rays do? This is an opportunity every trade deadline when we look at this market, we look at the lineup, we look at where the Rays are at. We talked about this last week on the show with Brian, but do they buy, do they sell, or do they just do what the Rays do, which is kind of a bit of both?
Yeah, I think it's leaning that way. I think the events that you just talked about, injuries, gambling stuff, the Rays hold a lot of the valuable cards here. And the rest of the league knows that, and Eric Neander definitely knows that. And I think they can really play this into Thursday. The reporting we had during this week is that the Rays have not made up their mind of what direction they're going in, which is, I don't know, we hear that every year.
Do you believe that? Just to add as a side, do you believe that?
Yeah, I don't believe Eric Neander's made up his mind until the right deal is in place.
Okay. I don't believe that they are hard not selling. But then if they lose tomorrow against Max Fried, now they're selling. I think coming into this, I think there was a point where they would have potentially considered adding like a rental or been more aggressive to finish a deal.
Ago, if they had even played 500 ball since then, you'd be in a position to heavily buy, I think, to really go after it.
But I still don't know if they'd be heavily buying. Like, I don't know if they're going after and getting, like, I think the most of that was taken off the table is that it opens the door. You basically are heavily not selling Yandy or Lau or Fairbanks.
Correct.
Right. Like, those are the guys you don't sell.
Or whatever it was. No.
Right. So if you were closer, I think those so I read, because Neander it was a very public quote where he was basically saying like, the closer we are, the more we buy, the further out we are, the less we do. I think that is really, really what he was saying is we're still going after the same things, right? Which is controllable pieces. They still have their eye mostly on like 2026 and on. But if you are closer, if you are like kind of like, okay, we're kind of getting hot right now, kind of like the Blue Jays in a lot of ways, they weren't expected to be like this. You can maybe say like, okay, we won't sell these guys yet. That means we will keep them. But that's, I think, the move that they I don't think it was going to, I don't see them buying, I never saw them buying a lot of rentals. So I don't think that was taken off the table so much.
But I do think, but you could see them making a bigger splash where you get a bigger controllable guy and you give up a Carson Williams, and then and
maybe you do that now instead of the off season because you are like, let's get this now, let's get those extra 2 months. Yeah. I think that's true. I think that's true.
Topkin has hinted at things are maybe different this year because it's Sternberg. It's likely Sternberg's last few months in control of the team. It's been Topkin also reported that some of the hardships that the players have had to go through moving to the home games at Steinbrenner Field, that there's like a sense that they need to rally behind these guys, and that might still happen. And it might be a rallying cry to say, you know what, we're not going to trade any of the big guns. We're going to keep Diaz, Lau, and Fairbanks and Littell, and we're going to try to win no matter what that means. If we fail, we fail, but we're going to keep this group together and try to win. That might be for the guys in the clubhouse that have heard these rumors, and the guys that were talking about being traded, Lau, Diaz, Littell, and Fairbanks, it's been a calendar year of their names being mentioned nonstop in trade rumors.
Yeah.
This is now the third, you had last year's deadline, then the offseason, and now this year's deadline. It's the same 4 guys. None of them have been traded yet. For those guys who I think all of them are leaders in their own way in that clubhouse, I mean, what a vote of confidence that would be for the Rays just to say, we're going to run with you.
And even if you are just adding like, I don't know, some random like right fielder or some, like the equivalent of the David Peralta type of move, right? If they went out and got like a rental Lourdes Gurriel, which would not cost that much. And that's it. And then kept everybody. Yeah, that would be, I think, the Rays going like, hell yeah, we're in.
Now, is that smart? I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean,
So
what I know you're a little bit more optimistic about this team's playoff chances than maybe I am.
I'm not. I'll say this. I would soften that a little bit. I'm not optimistic about their playoff chances. I am not as pessimistic.
Yeah.
I see the American League as the biggest dumpster fire, and so
We're
absolutely.
part of the dumpster fire.
Yeah, hell yeah. We set the fire. We set the fire. It's on fire. But we know that, right? Like, that's the thing, is like the Rays know it. They're like, look at this dumpster we're all in. It's on fire. We should all just accept that. No, I think the thing is that, like, the biggest thing about this is that you can absolutely, MLB is about to do the NASCAR series thing. You can win a car crash. There is a lot of, you can absolutely win on a yellow. You can win on a yellow, because here's the thing right now. We are seeing a lot of teams like the Astros potentially falling back. There is a lot of one good hot week and a bad slump, and you're right back into the wild card race. But that does not mean that going into this deadline, I want to see the Rays. I don't want to see them do any rentals, obviously. And I think that is off the table. But I guess my question is, for the folks listening, if they want to comment, if you're listening live, I want you to comment this. But this is a question for you, Brett. When it comes to, I'm gonna set the pitchers aside, because that'll be a separate one. But Yandy and Lau, do you trade both? Do you trade one, and which one? Or do you keep both?
I keep both.
You keep both?
Yeah. Yandy, again, I think he signed that extension, so you've got him on guaranteed money for next year, with the club option now being pushed one more further year out. So you could hold on to him and do this again next year. You could do this in the offseason. You still have the leverage there. I think Yandy, that's a clear case. That's a clear and cut case to keep Yandy Diaz. Brandon Lau, on the other hand, has one more deal left. There, I think, is going to be increasing injury concerns with him. He's always been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He's back on the IL again. He's not going to get any younger. The question you ask yourself, and this is the same question you ask yourself with Yandy, is, okay, so then do we value him more than what other teams would value him in a trade?
Mm.
And I think it would be likely, if Brandon Lau is still on this team come August 1st, that he could be in line for a similar extension that Yandy signed, to kind of push back. We're going to give, you've earned, based on your contribution to this franchise, another year of guaranteed 8-figure money.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we're going to push back your club option another year. You'll make whatever you're scheduled to make, $11.5 million next year, and then an option for $12.5 million with a buyout. And that way we could still eventually decide to move on in a trade, but you get your money guaranteed now. I don't know. That to me, both of those make sense. Now I don't know what they do. They could trade both.
But you would say, if you're wearing Eric Neander's zip up, you're keeping both.
My biggest point is, if you don't think you could, I understand that the team isn't good this year. They could very well be good next year. Like, you have McClanahan back, you have Rasmussen, you have Pepio, you have, I think Carson Williams is going to be on this team at some point next year. He is really starting to figure things out in AAA.
I think Kim will probably exercise his player option.
I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, the season's been kind of a mess for him injury-wise. I feel like,
for sure. Caminero, who's might hit 40 home runs this year, and there's still some.
And it'll be probably his worst.
Yeah.
Like, he has clear flaws, and he's still going to hit 40.
Yeah.
Like, there is still, pieces that you can just be like, if you fix this, you are going to that next level.
So when teams are going through a rebuild, the biggest question they often ask themselves is this player going to be around the next time we are good? And the Rays have never had a full rebuild. And as part of this retooling, and I think this is the same exact question that Eric Neander had to ask himself last year, who is still going to be on this team the next time we are good? I think his answer was, I think it's going to be Brandon Lau and Yandy Diaz, and it's probably not going to be Randy Arozarena. The Paredes trade was a little bit different. It's not going to be Jason Adam. So let's move on from these guys now. Let's get our work done early. I don't think that's the case now. I think they've showed how much they value Diaz and Lau. They have planted their flag with these guys, for over 6 seasons. That's rare.
This is interesting. That's a really interesting point you just made, because we talked about this last year at the deadline, at the trade deadline, that like if you really were doing a fire sale, if you were really doing like a full rebuild, there's really no reason why Lau and Yandy would have stayed on that team. The fact that they did showed that they still thought they could compete this year. And they were right. They are really legitimately, fundamentally, as much as people want to say, like, I knew this was going to be a bad team, blah, blah, blah. Fundamentally, they're right. They were right to keep them because this has been a competitive team. Like in June, they had the best record. They were the best record in baseball. They've now gone. If they had like literally just slightly better than the worst record in baseball, they would be still in a playoff spot. They could absolutely get hot again and like be right there in it. So they were right to say that this was not a complete punt year. However, 2026 was, I think, still like their vision. Like I don't think they saw this as like the big year. They added some pieces like Kim and like Jansen. But I do think this is the thing, right? Jansen is sort of like add a piece because you have some money to spend. But Keegan was probably going to be your kind of bigger guy. Like that's probably the guy that's starting for the next time. And then when it comes to Kim, that was sort of just falling into your lap because he was available because of the injury. He wasn't available otherwise to you without the injury. And that was still a deal that was made knowing that you're only getting a half a year of him this year, but you're paying for a full year, and you're giving him the option to be able to re-up with you, so that you potentially are saying, like, again, I still see that as a 2026 move. So to me, that's the part that I come back to, and this is where I do think Eric Neander has been less than 100% truthful. Let's just say. I don't believe that the losing streak changes any plans for 2026. And so, if you were going into next year and saying like we are building for next year, I think the losing streak changed moving chips to this year. I don't think it says we are now getting rid of Yandy and Bilal if you weren't already thinking of them staying here next year. Mm-hmm. So that's the part that I don't think is fully true, is that now that we're losing, we are open to moving Yandy and Bilal, because if you are open to moving them, they were never going to be a plan for next year, and then I do think you trade them.
And for decisions specifically like Yandy and Bilal, like, okay, Stuart Sternberg is still in charge of this team.
Yes.
But if you know that you've got a new owner coming in next year, and that, assuming that there were discussions that took place between Eric Neander and potential new owners, or at least whispers about what the plans were, and you knew, okay, we've got a little bit more money to play with next year, or we're not going to be under pressure to cut payroll next year. Right. Do you think that changes how you value a Lau or a Diaz, who going into next year, if you decide to pay them a combined, $24 million or whatever it is, that they're going to spend some time hurt. They're going to spend some time, struggling because they're into their 30s now. They may not be the player they have been the last couple of years, but they're still going to be valuable enough for us to keep them and play them.
You also have another financial factor in this, besides that, is that Wander Franco is now a convicted felon.
Yeah, you should be off. There's no... And Franco
who will not make it back into this country.
Yeah, was scheduled to make $15 million next year. It was the first year that his salary really jumped up. So I'm just looking at the other players with guaranteed salaries, and if we agree that the Rays are built to be competitive in 2026,
yes,
and you keep if we are going to go on the belief that they're going to keep Diaz and Bilal, which they might not do. Then you look at another hurt veteran that's got money on the books for next year, and do you look at trading a player like Hassan Kim?
Yeah, because he has a player option. I 100% look at trading him.
Does he have any value right now?
I don't. I think
He's been hurt. He rehabbed his injury. It took longer than expected. He comes back. He gets hurt right away. He plays for another week. He gets hurt again.
I think you chat with him and know what his mind is at. He doesn't have to say like I'm definitely opting in or I'm definitely opting out. Like
Right.
he shouldn't. That's not that. But I do think you can maybe get a sense of like where you think he is at. And I don't think. Here's the thing. I think I absolutely entertain a trade. I don't know if I do make a trade because I don't think his value is there.
There's one team that makes sense, I think, for Hassan Kim, and it's the Dodgers.
Oh, sure. They already have a Hassan Kim.
Yeah, they have Hassan Kim, and now they can get Hassan Kim.
Just make sure the pronunciation. Yeah, that shortstop, second base. That'd be a good like.
You're right. So
how good is Joe Davis at his quick pronunciations?
Yeah, Kim is playing second base for them now currently, but him and Edman both have some injury concerns right now.
Mookie has been kind of rough at short. And...
Yeah, well, Mookie, the thing is, his defense has actually been good. It's his bat that he's not hitting right now.
But you kind of almost want him to like focus on the bat. Like he had that weird, like virus early in the season that lost a ton of weight. Some strange stuff.
Yeah, the Dodgers are always looking to get players like this. I don't know. They've got maybe some 40-man.
They're another team too that if he opts in or doesn't opt in, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
That like payroll wise, they don't have to worry about like, can we absorb this $13 million next year?
Right.
They can be like, I don't.
They might have to make some trades because they have a lot. Their roster, like I don't know how they have 40 players on their roster. It feels like they sign every pitcher.
Every pitcher is injured.
Well, that's true.
They signed Blake Snell. He hasn't thrown yet. I think he threw like 4 pitches, and now he's been hurt the whole year.
Gonsolin has been hurt. I mean, Michael
May was hurt. He just got back.
Evan Phillips, Tanner Scott. That's their injured bullpen. I don't know. Hassan Kim to me makes sense, but I just look at it. It's like, okay.
I think you look at
2026 with Lau, Diaz, and Kim.
So this is where I actually kind of think Yandy Diaz is a guy that you trade at this deadline, but you keep Brandon Lau.
That feels backwards.
Doesn't it? It does, right? Because like the Rays are terrible against left-handed pitching. They can't hit left-handed pitching at all.
But
Brandon Lau being a lefty.
The fact that Yandy has had the guaranteed money for next year and Brandon Lau does not.
Yeah. No, you looked like you'd already have made that decision. But
is it how the market is shaping up that there are multiple teams that could use a first baseman like Yandy Diaz?
Yeah. I think there's two reasons why I say that. One, market for second base versus first base this year and next year. I think second base is barren. So if you can still, if you do decide to trade Lau, you still could. Two, Yandy Diaz is first base DH. And that is a position, now that Aranda has arrived, that the Rays are kind of like cluttered in. You have Trey Morgan, who, again, you're not clearing Yandy Diaz to allow Trey Morgan, who doesn't even have a bat.
Next year player. He might get up at some point this year if there was an injury or rosters.
But that's that's the thing, right? Is like he's not going to play first base. Obviously, he's going to be probably in the outfield. But like I think this is the problem is I think this is the deadline where the Rays, as they do, buy and sell. They make sure that they leave this deadline with some answers for 2026.
Yeah.
And I think one way to do that is to trade one of those two for a proven major league or near major league outfielder. Not proven if they're near major league, but somebody that you think you can pencil in as a starter in the outfield for next year.
Jordan Walker, or is he too bad?
I don't think you pencil him in. I think Jordan Walker is you're getting the right-handed Josh Lowe. Although, if they want to do that trade, I would do that trade at an instant. Like 2 broken pieces, and let's see if we can fix each other.
Maybe if Walker, I feel like would have to come at a heavy discount. I think if he's gettable at a discount, you poke around and you ask.
100%. But I was thinking like you look at it, and this would be a trade that I do think would mess up some Rays fans, and I think it would rattle the thing. But there is a potential win-win trade to be had with the Boston Red Sox.
The Red Sox make too much sense. They have outfielders coming out the wazoo, and they really desperately need a first baseman. The Rays need outfielders and have a first base / DH just not to spare. He's been the best hitter.
Not to spare, but you have like you can easily see where Kim fits in to second base with Carson Williams next year, and Brandon Lau with his fragile body at DH.
And more DH for Aranda if you've got Morgan that's going to come up.
Yes.
Morgan can also play corner outfield.
Yes, you can bounce in between the two. I think Yandy is a harder fit for next year's club if you had to pick between the two. I think you can fit both. You absolutely can. But I do think and it's terrible because also it's like you're trading in division, 1. 2, Boston you're in wild card division. Like you are actively
facing Yandy Diaz in the first round of the postseason.
Totally. But when Yandy Diaz flies out to deep center and Cedane Rafaela tracks it down for the Rays in center field, which would you rather be on the side of?
If that's the type of deal you could get done for Yandy Diaz, then.
But that's I will say that's the thing. It's like I don't think Yandy Diaz or Brandon Lau move at this deadline without a true. I would be very disappointed if the Rays trade either one of those for guys that are not going to contribute in 2026. I will say that. That's my line. Is that like I don't think I would want them to be traded if it was I think last deadline you made a choice like you said for which players are going to be here in competition for 2026 and which players are not, and they picked Yandy and Lau. They did not select Paredes and Randy, and I think if you and that's why I'm fine with the Randy return because those are guys that are helping you down the line. Like Hopkins will probably be up mid-season next year. He's going to be the Joe Boyle next year, where everyone's like, we got to find a space for him. And then Aiden Smith is maybe a little bit further back. But if you were trading Yandy and Lau for that, I would be a little bit more disappointed.
Well, and then you look at I'm just looking at first base leaders in hitting this year across baseball. And the Red Sox, they don't need one, but probably prefer a right-handed bat. You could deal with a left-handed bat there, but their lineup's becoming a little too left-handed. Michael Bush not going anywhere. Pete Alonso not going anywhere. Aranda, Vlad Jr., Bryce Harper.
Nope.
Matt Olson probably not. Olson you could see traded, but
maybe
unlikely.
Unlikely though.
O'Hearn Fitz
will be traded.
Will be traded. Again, interdivision and left-handed. Is that the kind of guy you want to go after? Freeman, Wilson Contreras, who I hadn't thought about. I think he's on a lot of money, but maybe that works.
Yeah, maybe.
Torkelson, no. Alec Burleson, maybe. That actually, I could see that working for both teams. Naylor, Ben Rice, Shanuel, a lot of these are left-handed hitters. Goldschmidt, who if they had gotten him at the beginning of the year would have worked out great, but I don't think the Yankees are trading him with potential Aaron Judge injury. They need to hold on to any hitter they can.
Unless they're full selling, right? Like,
well, that was thrown around today. But
yeah, I don't believe that at all.
You have a lot of leverage. Not only are you in division with the Red Sox, you're in competition. Say, if you want Yandy Diaz,
the multipliers. The multipliers add up. Yeah, that is where you start the conversations at we're like Roman Anthony, Weyler Abreu, Cedane Rafaela. Like you're like you're hanging up.
I could see Craig Breslow's Red Sox saying, "Yeah, let's do it. We need
100%
this hitter."
You have Cedane Rafaela playing second.
Yeah,
he's the best center fielder. And he's playing second base. I mean, he just made an amazing play the other night at second. So he's just an unbelievable defensive player every which way. But you have him playing second. Like, that's how much of a glut. Like, I don't I think if I would be surprised if it was Duran. That doesn't really line up in terms of like money wise, but like they do have so many outfielders that would make immediate sense for the Rays. That the Red Sox and Breslow has been pretty aggressive reshaping this team.
Yeah.
Yandy Diaz is not a rental. He is not Josh Naylor. He is here next year. So you have a year and a half of Yandy Diaz, or a year and 2 months plus whatever postseason run. I don't think the Rays will trade him in division. But if they do, I think that is a move that is, it will be called a sell. But if you swapped Yandy Diaz right now for Ceddanne Rafaela, and that's your new center fielder, Lau comes back Wednesday. He's now at DH. Kim, somehow, some way, stays healthy. Now he's your shortstop second baseman. I mean, is that an upgrade? Like overall, like you lose a big bat in Yandy, but you are now upgrading your defense. And Rafael's kind of having a little breakout. He's under control for many years. I'm just saying, not to disparage Yandy Diaz. And if he's still here, I think I will give a pretty loud hell yeah if Lau and Yandy are still here, because I think it'll be, as much as I'm like, time to sell, time to trade, let's shake it up, I still would be like, hell yeah, they're still here. So, but I do think there's a real like gut punch move that ends up being in a bigger impact. I don't know.
They don't quite have the major league pieces that they're ready to, that I think were worth a Yandy trade. This one I think will be more prospect heavy, but the San Diego also makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
Gavin Sheets has been in the DH spot recently, also playing outfield for them. You've got, Arias at first base. Him and Yandy could kind of play the same role that him and Rondo are doing this year, where Arias gets the bulk, but Yandy can play there. Adds another right-handed bat. Their team very much in contention. I don't know what a prospect package would look like there. Maybe you ask for Ethan Salas. I doubt you're getting anywhere, but he has kind of struggled, in Double-A, and he's still very, very young for the league. But
the other thing there I look at is that the Seattle Mariners Jerry is kind of pushing a lot of chips. They just got their first baseman in Naylor, but DH is still a black hole, and second base is also kind of a black hole. Technically, third base is also, they could upgrade there, but Yandy hasn't played third base in quite some time. But like Harry Ford is blocked by Cal Raleigh, and it seems like Seattle really wants to use him as the piece that gets them that piece that they desperately need to maybe take over the AL West. I think
does Houston make some sense too for Yandy?
Houston needs offense badly, but I don't know what they have to trade.
They don't.
That's the problem. Cam Smith?
I mean, yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. I mean,
that's the thing that's the Ceddanne Rafaela of them, right? It's like that is the like you need that to enter the conversation, because like you're not trading Jacob Melton. Is it Melton who's their like top prospect? Who's like kind of like fringe top 100?
Stinks right now, and
it's terrible. It's empty.
But they might be in a win now mode where maybe
they need an impact
next
bat.
Year is not good, and like once all the like Altuve stops hitting, and I don't really know how they're good this year. But
Houston's kind of that's why they're kind of dangling on the precipice with all the injuries they've had. They could be a team that completely collapses out of it. They could still just stick around, but yeah, I do think they could try to make a move, but I just don't see the pieces that like Myers maybe.
Another not big right-handed bat, decent right-handed bat who just hit a grand slam in that game against San Diego. His name has been kind of thrown
Vientos,
out in potential trade talks. Again, I think the Rays hold the chips.
Yes.
Like,
speaking of the other chips, though,
keep Yandy, or you can have him if the price is right.
Right. He needs to hurt. It needs to hurt bad. But here's the other chips, though. Now, this is where we shift to. Those are the two that I think are it could happen, like you said, but it would you have to. It will be a move that like I think immediately impacts the Rays as well. The other thing is Pete Fairbanks and Zach Littell. So, Brett, same question now. Trade both, keep both, trade one, and who?
Trade one. Um,
Trade one.
yeah, and I think the answer is Fairbanks here. I think
Keep
if you
Littell.
gave, I said this last year, I think if you gave Eric Nander truth serum, he would say that bad teams don't need good closers. Um, there were Fairbanks was involved in rumors last year. Next year is his last year on his deal. If the Rays pick up a $7 million call option, which actually I think now is like $9 million after he hit enough appearances, so a pretty sizable deal. And closers are always a hot commodity this time of year. And so, if the Rays want to get in on that, we saw the news with Clase, Felix Bautista, like some of the guys that were seen as the biggest closers on the market are now not available. So, Fairbanks, I think, makes a lot of sense. A closer, as much as you need one when you're right in the thick of things, you don't really need them when you're a team that's a 500 team.
No. Do you look at? There's a lot of interesting. There's so many places. If you can get, I think Pete Fairbanks. I actually think both. I think both get traded. I think I trade both, and I think both get traded.
Wow. Yeah. Hey. Sometimes we agree too much on this show, so I like this.
This time we're a little bit off. I think I agree though a lot with what you're saying with Fairbanks. I love Pete Fairbanks. He's like one of my favorite Rays. I love Yandy Diaz too. I feel like I was pushing too much. Like I still love him, and again I love to keep him. But Pete Fairbanks, when it comes to relievers, if the price is that big, and the Rays need relief, right? Like they've been bad in relief. That's their bullpen has been absolutely atrocious. When you've seen the moves that teams have made, like when you see Cole Reagans be the return for a rental of Aroldis Chapman, when you've seen the deals that some of these people come back, it is really hard to think that 70 innings, even as good as those are, is worth what you could potentially have an impact back. Like I don't know exactly the piece that you line up, but like there's Joe Adell, the Angels. The Angels delude themselves into thinking that they're like, because they're in the same rate. They're kind of in that like 3-4 games back. Like they've been playing well. You have Trout. Like how much time is there? Do you just make that move? Like maybe. Do you like there's a lot of pieces there with relievers and Johan Duran. Like we saw like the rumor for that was Vientos was the ask from the Mets for Duran.
Right.
Vientos would be, I mean, like the Rays don't need a third baseman, but like that caliber of a player, right? 25, I think it's 25, 26, kind of cost controlled, immediate impact. I think that is a really, really good, like, I think that's what you set it at. I think you absolutely say like Durant has more years of control, but like Pete is also not a rental. And so I think that's still like the piece that you really have.
I think I see Garrett Clevenger as a piece that is really easy to move right now. He's got multiple years of control, but maybe you haven't seen his best stuff this year. The Rays still value him now, but are you going to keep him around for the next couple of years? I don't know, to be determined. So if team needs a lefty, a guy that's thrown some big innings, Clevenger is right there. Could probably be got at a reasonable cost. That one seems pretty easy to me, although he is still very affordable for next year he'd probably be at around $4 or $5 million. So still pretty affordable if you do want to keep him.
Yeah, just starting ARB. There is the kind of the interesting thing of like Brian Baker and Garrett Clevenger, Edwin Uceda, like Mason Montgomery, Gervais, Reefer. You just
Yeah.
kind of like throw a bunch of things, audition for the next 2 months, see who's still your closer for next year. Uh, Taj next year is closer.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I,
think some
I,
more difficult questions get asked when you're like, okay, what do we do with the group of, well, Josh Lowe, who's been an everyday player when he's healthy. What direction do you want to go with him? And then the two role players, Caballero and Morel. Those are guys entering arbitration next year. What is their role on this team? Caballero has a role, which means he might have more trade value. Morel has some of the tools, which might give him some trade value. But they clearly don't value his roster spot now. So
I think Morel is traded. I think he's traded. I don't think it's going to be for much. I think it's going to be for kind of similar to the Jansen trade, like
yeah,
a neat piece, probably in like A ball
yeah.
or double A
These are
or something like that.
decisions where sometimes you're just getting some early work done for the 40-man roster, for in the off season, and for when you need to add Rule 5 guys. You have McClanahan on the 60-day IL. Uh, he's going to need, if he comes back, he's going to need a spot. So you don't want to necessarily get stuck with guys that you're going to need a DFA in a month, and then you can't trade them.
Right.
You might need to trade them now and just kind of backfill the roster with guys that are easily expendable. I don't know if you want to get stuck holding the Morel bag on September 7th when you need a roster spot.
I think the die is cast with Morel. Like I feel like they just aren't even using him like anytime. So like it seems very unlikely that they keep him. Like it's very unlikely that they trade him or they keep him and trade somebody else and then he
Yeah.
becomes the starter. Like you could just be doing that.
And DeLuca being back is kind of the nail in the coffin. I mean, like,
Crowds the outfield. Yeah.
yeah, Simpson. Could they send Simpson down again?
I don't think so with the way
Covens?
he's hitting.
Yeah, maybe get
Mangum,
him out of center field.
they could send Mangum down. I think Cash still likes him.
Yeah, I don't know.
You
I
could
don't think
send
he's
Josh
going
Lowe
anywhere.
down.
Mangum's rolling WRC plus has been so steady. I mean, the guy just he shows up.
He just shows up. Josh Lowe has been in a like month long slump. He had a pretty good game tonight, but Josh Lowe still has an option remaining. You could send him
Yeah,
down.
as a lefty, I mean, he's going to be in the lineup like every day.
I
If
just
you,
that's where I'm looking though. If I'm looking through that, I'm like, okay, well, DeLuca, we saw tonight why you want him starting center field. You also saw tonight why you don't want Chandler starting center field. Um,
hey, Tristan
you
Gray is
move
back.
Tristan. Yeah, technically, he is there. He actually made a great play in the third game against the Reds. Almost saved the game there. Uh, yeah, I think with DeLuca, I do think that's just like there's just no role for Christopher Morel. Right? Like they're not even playing him at second base. They traded for Tristan Gray. Like he is so far out.
Yeah, like
Like
they
he was a
traded for
second
Stuart
baseman last year.
Fairchild,
Yeah, I think I'm
but
not
like
sure what that move
I
was
don't know what it was
interesting.
for either. But it shows that like
That's
you've got
also a
Christopher
Morel.
Morel.
Yeah, that's a Morel spot.
You like Stuart Fairchild more than Morel? Like that is telling.
Yeah,
Like
that just
we need a
seems
right-handed
like
hitting outfielder. You have one. Now
not
we need
that one.
another one.
Not that one.
The
Right,
guy
because
that
you have
the
Chandler who's platoon neutral, you have Mangum who's a switch hitter,
yeah
and then you have Morel who you've
you know
only used against lefties. If you get Fairchild, all right, I there's the music stopped and all three chairs are being sat in.
so I don't
Yeah,
know.
so I think he's gone. So you're saying Littell stays.
I think yeah.
So they're letting Littell pitch out and then leave in free agency,
I think
which makes sense because he's
even
probably
if you're
not
not
getting that much back.
yeah even if you're not pushing chips in, it comes to like oh we need starting pitchers. Is that a point of depth for us anymore now? McClanahan, we don't know what his status is. Bradley, we don't know if he comes back up this year until September maybe when rosters are expanded. And Boyle, I think they're going to be careful with Boyle. Um, can you afford to get rid of a Littell? Even though you're not pushing chips in for a big postseason run, you still need to like play the games. and try to win. So I don't know.
Totally. And I think they will.
If Littell is traded, I think we see a starter come back.
Yeah, I could see that.
Or some sort of length piece that is like better than like Alex Faedo.
Right. No, I think the Paddock thing is like a very interesting tell.
Yeah.
That's like a very interesting tell. Like, why are you in on him? It could be for the pen, but it probably isn't. Like, he probably doesn't have enough stuff that can work out of the pen, so it's probably for starting, which makes me think somebody in the starting rotation is being traded. Yeah.
Romans, I'm bringing your comment up here. Why are we blasting Chandler Simpson's fielding? It's because it's horrendous. It's so bad.
He is
to be better.
He is an infielder who is new to the outfield, and it's extremely obvious.
But when you watch like the play from tonight,
yes, yeah,
does that make you doubt that he'll ever be good in the out? It made me doubt that he will.
That was a really bad route. He went back and sideways, and then had to go forward and back the other way.
Right.
And his speed almost caught up to it.
I'm not out. Trust me. I am a Chandler Simpson believer. But watch that play and then try to tell me, he just he's just getting his work.
But that's where right now you have DeLuca back, and you saw that play at the end of the game. Like, Chandler doesn't make that catch. No. He misses that catch.
No, we've seen
it's now a run in.
Was at Yankee Stadium this year where he couldn't get to it. Was it a judge? It turned into a triple. He can get there. He can physically get there. But did he put himself in the right position to make a play? Did he take the right route or the right angle? And DeLuca was just, it's incredible.
Flawless. Roadrunner out there. But that's the play though. That's the play where I'm like, Chandler is hitting well, and I actually don't mind him lead off, but I think left field is perfect, right? I think left field is also it's better for the arm. Like, Chandler has a very poor arm, but left field is usually a pretty like safe spot where it's the shortest throws. It's, like we've put up with some bad arms. Like, Randy doesn't have a great arm. We've seen Carl Crawford had a very accurate arm, just not a very strong arm. And we saw Jason Dominguez tonight, noodle arm, just lollipopped it in there.
The thing with Simpson, the arm isn't there, and I'm not putting comments up that are blasted in all caps, guys. We gotta lower our voices in the comments section. We can interact a little bit more. I don't know. I'm just looking at the list of arbitration guys. Edwin Uceda, I don't know. Jose Caballero. Let's talk about Jose Caballero. Is that a deal that if someone needs a utility man, and there's a prospect you pull the trigger on it?
So there was a report out that the Yankees were looking at Kim, Walls, and Caballero. Because I think we saw tonight, actually. Walls made some really spectacular plays. Saved some runs today. Anthony Volpe absolutely booted a ball right to him. It was a tougher play, but still booted it. Yeah. Yankees fans reined in the booze. So that is, maybe they are looking at needing to. They already added Ahmed Rosario, so maybe they are trying to get some interesting utility guys. Caballero kind of fits. I think there is. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those three gets moved. I'll just say that, and I think Kim is probably the least likely. I don't know where. So here's the thing though: if you're trading Walls or Caballero, it does suggest that one, Kim is healthy, which I don't know. But then you're suggesting, I think to me, that Carson Williams is ready to come up and at least try it out.
Yeah. How about,
because if Kim gets hurt again, that's your next call.
So here's a name for you. We talk about kind of crowded situation and depending on who they trade or who they bring in. Curtis Mead is on his last option year. So this is the last year you can kind of bounce him up between the big leagues and Durham. He's taken up a 40-man spot. They've kept him in AAA even when they had Coco Montes up for a few days because I think they knew it was going to be
Yeah, quick
short
turnaround.
term, and they wanted Mead to keep playing. But at what point does Mead need to be playing for him to be on this team? And next year, you're not going to have that choice to stash him in Durham. So do you try to move on from him now?
This is the interesting question, because I think if you don't, I think you look at a Kim or a Brandon Lau trade as a precursor to saying like Mead is sort of getting a, you know, lion's share of second base going forward this season to try it out, or is he your piece that you are trying to move?
Yeah.
I don't know what you can get for Mead, but I do think there's teams that are going to be interested and should be. Like again, he's 24. I think he has a lot of like bat to ball skills. He's shown power in the minors, just hasn't showed it in the majors that much. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like I could see again. I always think like the Marlins, right? Did Pete Bendix really like Curtis Mead? Because if he did, we'll know if they trade for him. We know Pete
Right.
Bendix really liked Curtis Mead.
Yeah, that's the only one where I feel like you could get some off-season work in, where you just open up that 40-man spot for however else
Yeah,
you want to move it. But I don't know. I think we covered all the bases, every possibility of what could or could not happen. I think things are fluid right now. A lot of it is dependent
Pre-
on what the market looks like.
prediction for you. I want you to throw out a prediction.
Okay,
Do the Rays add a major league? Do the Rays add a starter for 2026 at this deadline?
a starter for 2026.
Yeah, not a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
A person in the starting rotation, bullpen,
Mm-hmm.
or position.
Okay, so I think one really great example of an offseason that, or of a trade deadline that the Rays did this for a team that was, on the outside looking at it the postseason, but wasn't necessarily a bad team. And that was when they acquired Tommy Pham. Obviously, that was a
Mm-hmm.
part of a much bigger deadline, but you brought in a guy that said this is going to help us this year, but next year he will be like the most important part in the part of the lineup, and he was in that 2019 season. That was like just a really great offensive season for a Rays player. Um, I could see you making a move like that,
Yeah.
where you bring in someone that you know is going to contribute over the likes of a Jake Mangum or a Josh Law, and that's why corner outfield just seems like a clear addition at this point. But it's got to be the right player. I think they do. I think history shows us that's what Neander does. Like, if we're going to get ready for next year, it's not going to be banking on just the young guys to all click. We've done that, and we've had rough years like that. I remember it was the year where it was like, who were the three players trying to come up at the same time? It was like Josh Lowe, Aranda, and
And
someone
Mead.
else, and Mead, right? And they were all struggling.
Yeah.
And now, look, one of them is hit, right? Aranda has finally broken through and is an all-star, and Josh Lowe has
Had
at least,
moments.
yeah, had moments. I think you could pass him off as a league average player, a guy that you could justify playing him every day. You need him to be better to reach the goals you
Mm-hmm.
want to. Um, but yeah, I could see some space being made. You don't want to bank on Carson Williams, Trey Morgan, and Xavier Isaac to all come up and
Yeah,
carry the team at the same time.
100%. I 100% agree with that. And I think the Tommy Pham one's a really good pick, because that was a trade that was like a trade deadline where the Rays were sellers, and then they added Tommy Pham, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah,
They're buyers?
yeah. Dylan
Uh,
Cease. I think
di-
that's a
there's been
very
some
interesting
smoke
name.
there. There's
Yeah,
been some smoke there.
that feels like such a Rays Padres deal.
Okay, here's a really interesting thing, because the Padres are not sellers, obviously, but they do need to increase. They do need to add pieces in their main. So the Padres are in a spot where they need to be a team that adds to their major league roster, but the way they do that is through pitching, because they have terrible offense, or their offense is not great.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're adding Cease, I just I think he's I don't know. I don't think the Rays are in the pushing chips business, But if you're doing that, I think you have an idea. I don't know. I could see it's an interesting. I don't see where the setup. I'm curious to see like what that setup would be.
So if it's a Cease Yandy Diaz trade,
Mm-hmm.
which side has to add more? Like who's the more valuable piece?
Yandy because he's there for next year.
Is Cease okay? Cease is a rental.
Yeah,
Interesting.
he is free agent next year. He's very cheap. Like he was in his last year of arbitration.
If you get Cease plus,
Yeah.
you get an interesting starter that's probably better than. He's better than Taj Bradley right now. You would take Cease over Bradley.
Yeah, I would say he's probably right there, like Pepio. I'd say I'd probably take him a bit over Pepio just because of. I think he's similar to Pepio. I think Cease has shown it a little bit more.
So you go into a postseason series. Is it like is it Rasmussen game one? Maybe McClanahan on game 2 or 3, and you got him on obviously like maybe only 4 innings.
And then Cease and then Pepio.
Mm-hmm. They move Boyle into like a bullpen role, like behind
Boyle and Boz out of the pen. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think the key there would just be like, what do you get? What's the sweetener with that?
Right.
Or is there like a combination of pieces that you can get that like makes
Jason
it work?
Adam would be fun. I'm just kidding. They're not trading Jason Adam. He would be fun to have.
They do have a lot of good bullpen pieces. They do have a lot of nice bullpen
interesting
pieces.
names, and I don't know. Maybe you move on from Cease and you say, is there something to be had with Ethan Salas here? We really try to figure out the catching.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be rare for the Rays to make a young catcher like that the corner piece of a deal.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options this deadline.
Or they could stay.
I'm excited.
Like there will be at least one more trade, but they could hold on to all of the core players, all the starting pitchers. The balls.
They don't have in terms of free agents to be. They only have really Zach Littell. That's like a true like this is a rental. He leaves after this. So that is the only piece. Everything else is under contract or a team option, or in Kim's case, a player option that you're probably like 70-30 that he's gonna vest that. But you also probably aren't trading. Like you almost take the gamble of him vesting it and like keeping him, instead of trading him for like pennies on the dollar.
We'll see.
We'll see.
If it's possible, there's a big move. We could try to put an instant reaction together.
We'll see if
an instant reaction. I imagine we'll try to get something out to you.
I think Thursday night we'll talk about it, but I think I would be available. So I think there'll be enough to talk about. Because if they don't do anything, then we know like this is the lineup. This is what we got for the rest of this year. And this is the state of things. So we double trade deadline discussions this week.
Hey, I'm down. But that is going to do it for tonight's episode of Raise Your Voice. Thank you guys for listening. We have been live on youtube.com/@RaiseYourVoice. If you haven't already, you're still around an hour and a half into this thing. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on those notifications so you can join us in the comments and have a good time every time we go live. We're also, of course, still available wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leaving a rating and review is the best way to spread what we do to more and more Rays fans. If you really want to say thank you because you love what we do, head on over to patreon.com/raiseyourvoice where you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. As always, head on over to draysbay.com to check out all of that great Rays coverage. Once again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you after the trade deadline, maybe before the trade deadline. Who knows? But we'll talk to you soon.